Well, earlier today, we sat down with Republican Senator Mitt Romney. He serves on the Foreign Relations Committee, and we asked him about the war in Ukraine. With the president speaking there on Capitol Hill tonight, are you worried that Vladimir Putin could try to upstage him and launch a deadly attack on Ukraine's capital of Kyiv?
Well, there's no way of predicting what kind of illogical things Vladimir Putin will do. His invasion of Ukraine doesn't make a lot of sense. I think long term you have to see that this is a very bad decision on his part. So I don't rule anything out, but I think it's more likely that we're going to be focused in our country on what President Biden has to say about how we're going to rethink the commitments and the priorities we have in our country.
Is there anything that the U.S. can do to stop Vladimir Putin?
Well, Vladimir Putin has put himself on a course where the people who will stop him are the people of Ukraine. We want to help them with additional armament, with food and supplies. That is getting through at this stage. But the people of the world have also come together and insisted that their governments continue to increase the sanctions on Russia, and that will continue.
Are you concerned about a scenario where this could escalate to a nuclear attack?
Well, people are always concerned, and I'm among them, for what kinds of things Vladimir Putin might do, whether he might use tactical nuclear weapons at some point if he were in a corner with his conventional weaponry. I think it's extremely unlikely that he would move in that direction in the current conflict. But I think we always have to recognize that Vladimir Putin has well over 1,000 nuclear weapons aimed at the United States of America. And so to consider him somehow a friend or someone we can do business with ignores the fact that he is an enemy.
And what about Vladimir Putin's mental state? He looks increasingly isolated. What do you know?
I don't think that anybody can really assess what's going on in the mind of Vladimir Putin right now. The huge table with him sitting at one end is like Dr. Strangelove. He is not listening, apparently, to people who have contrary points of view. I don't know that that's something which suggests a mental imbalance or whether it's just a recognition that this is a dictator, that he's intent on conquest.
Ukrainians have been pleading for a no-fly zone. Is that something you would support?
I would love there to be a humanitarian corridor, a no-fly zone, if you will, that could be negotiated, that would allow women and children from Ukraine to be able to escape if they want to do so. It would hopefully be something done by the United Nations or by NATO or even by us. But we don't want to find ourselves in a position where we're in direct conflict with Russians. The consequence of that could be too severe.
And that was my conversation today with Republican Senator Mitt Romney.